Devin, cheers for joining us, pal. Free Jacks Live. We're delighted to have you, my friend.
Oh, thank you for having me. I think this is how I know that I've made it, is now that I get to be interviewed by Dallen after years of knowing you.
You too kind, my friend. Listen, let's kick things off. Your rugby journey, you picked up the ball a lot younger than I would say most American folks at Brookline High School. How did that unfold? Tell us a story there.
So I actually came into rugby because, for lack of better description, failures at other sports. So I tried American football. It wasn't for me. And I actually attempted to play baseball. And I convinced myself that even though I'd never played, that I could be good at it. And I went out and tried out for the team, and I was one of four players not to make the team. So at that point, that's when I said, okay, I think I need to really start from scratch and pick up a sport that I don't know anything about. And that's how I found rugby. Brookline High School had a program that has been there for about 30 years. And I went to a guidance counselor and flipped through what sports were offered. And that's how I found it.
That is awesome. I mean, let's talk about college then. So you carry on playing, you're enjoying the sport so much that you still keep going into your 20s.
Yeah, so I went to UMass Amherst after Brookline, and they had recently become a Division I program, so that was a big kind of challenge I was looking forward to taking on. And one of my bigger accomplishments there was I became captain my junior season, and we ended up going undefeated, actually, and we went on to win Beast of the East, and we ended up going on to win Beast of the East for the next 4 years in a row. So that was like our big crowning achievement at UMass when I was there.
Absolute domination, but that didn't stop you. That was just your start of your journey, right? Because there's something very close to both our hearts, and that's representing Team USA at the World Maccabea Games. Okay, so for those people that don't know about this Jewish event, tell us why it is so special, why it has such good meaning, and also touch on, you were part of a team that made history in 2017.
Sure. So, I mean, yeah, for people who don't know, the World Maccabea Games is actually the fourth largest sporting event in the world. So it's not only a massive event, but it's also something that's very meaningful to me and you, because it's one of those rare opportunities where you get to take the field with people who you have a bond to, just like an inherent bond of your heritage and the things that you've experienced. So I think that going out there is always this huge moment for a group of athletes who a lot of us have kind of just been told that you're not athletic and you're not going to play a high level of a sport. And for a lot of us, that was probably true, but Maccabea was a chance to make that not be the case and to really go all in and treat it like a professional event. So it was always something really meaningful to me. And even on a more personal level, I actually tried out when I was 19 in 2013. I don't know if you remember this.
I do. I remember your name. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I tried out in 2013, and very similar to the baseball situation, I was one of the last like 8 or 9 players cut. I made it through all the rounds of tryouts until the very last one, and I didn't make it. So Maccabea was always this like big crowning achievement for me that I really wanted to accomplish. So I made it onto the team for 2017. And as you said, we went on to go and make history. It was an incredible tournament. We ended up going on to beat South Africa in the final. We were heavy underdogs, and we won our first gold medal in 20 years. And for me, it was also not only this achievement of I made the team and won the gold after not making it in 2013, but I'd actually suffered a torn hamstring a month before the finals match. So I was playing on a not ideal hamstring, and that was just for me to have such a massive accomplishment while knowing that I was not fully healthy was just like such a proud moment for me and the rest of the people on the team as well.
Well, you give me goosebumps reliving that moment. And of course, I didn't know that you actually were carrying that injury going through as well. And I think a lot of people, when they hear the sport of rugby, they think about the mental toughness that folks carry, and you just exemplify that. And another special moment happens the next year for you. So you keep going strong. Mystic River, and I know Basil Rosinski is probably commenting here. He's always all over the Free Jacks stuff here. You win the national championship. Can you tell us what that was like? Representing obviously all of us here in New England.
Yeah, so I'd just come back from playing in Maccabea, and I'd actually been traveling a bit. I'd been in New Zealand and Australia. So I wanted to come back home and try to win the biggest tournament there was at the time, which was the D1 National Championship. So it was my first season with Mystic River, and I figured I would just give it a try. And we ended up just having a crazy whirlwind of a season where we did okay, kind of up and down year. And then once the kind of playoffs hit, we won out all of our matches. We won the semifinal match against Nyack after overcoming a 17-point deficit. We won that game by 1 point. We went on to play Belmont Shore in the final, and we ended up having to play down a man for 30 minutes because of a red card, and we won that game by 1 point. So I was just like completely blown away that we'd been able to accomplish something like that, and that I'd had just such a crazy 2 years where two things that I'd been really looking towards for my whole rugby career happened just back to back.
And the amazing thing about the sport is that, obviously you can play rugby at any age. You can play it in mostly any country, which is phenomenal. But professional rugby finally hits home here for you in the USA. Can you talk a bit about Major League Rugby? And if you look ahead to the next 5 to 10 years, what sort of positive effects do you think this professional game will have on the communities here and, of course, our sport?
Well, I think resources is a huge part of it, right? I think that for me, when I was coming up, a lot of these pathways were only just starting to be developed. And there wasn't a lot of clear, concrete ways of, do you want to play at this level? Well, here's what you have to do to get there. So I think that having this sort of structure with the MLR and what they're doing in trying to establish grassroots academy teams and trying to do community outreach, it gives younger players a very clear pathway of, if you want to take the sport seriously to play it at a professional level, this is how you do it. Because I think for me and for you, a lot of the people in this sort of generation, we were kind of just guessing, right? We were trying to play as high a level as we could, try to be around as many good players as we could, but we didn't really have a clearly defined way to get there. So I think that's going to be the biggest impact, is having that kind of presence in a community that shows people this is how you can get to the level that you want to get to. But then on a social side of things, I think it also is incredibly important for American rugby players to have that kind of a platform where it kind of legitimizes us on the world stage. Having a professional competition where other teams and other players and other countries want to send people here to play in our league, I think is also massive for our country and the sport.
Yeah, you're so right. A lot of big names attached to Major League Rugby, and folks just keen to get to the US, right? Experience something different, and the fact that we have rugby here is so great. And so you represented the Free Jacks in MLR. You're the first openly gay rugby player as well that we have. So would you mind sharing, how and what led you to come out in December 2020, and how that decision has empowered you?
It's been a lot of things. So, I mean, I came out to my parents when I was 12 years old. So this wasn't like some revelation that I had in the past few years. This was something I've known for a long time. But I mean, like you said, you knew me all those years ago. It just wasn't really something that I brought up. I mean, it wasn't something that I felt I needed to express to other people. I started to kind of have a shift in my thinking when I suffered a life-threatening injury in 2017. That really made me feel like I needed to think about what was meaningful to me beyond just playing, and other things that I could do that I would be proud of. So that was when that seed was sort of first planted. And signing that contract with the Free Jacks a few years later in 2019, I kind of just realized, like, this is my opportunity to do something that I think there's a need for. I kind of looked around and there weren't a lot of high-level men's rugby players speaking out about LGBTQ plus issues in the sport who I could kind of look to doing that advocacy. And I felt like I could really kind of step into that and do something meaningful. So that was when I sort of made this decision this year to just go for it, because I've been separated from my partner by the pandemic for the year. I haven't been able to see him, and we were really struggling. And it was just something that I knew that I could do that would mean a lot, not just to me, but also to him. And that was kind of what led to this decision. Is I just realized I've been waiting on this long enough. I know it's something I want to do, and I might as well just do it.
Yes, and you're doing it superbly. And your social media handle, which you have, is called That Gay Rugger. Can you tell us why you came up with that?
Yeah, so that's another thing that I mentioned to you, right? I kind of kept my sexuality separate from rugby. And I think part of that was from this fear that it would be kind of, my accomplishments would always be linked to my sexuality, right? I wouldn't just be known as that rugby player who won a Division I national championship or captained his teams. I would be known as that gay rugby player, right? I wouldn't necessarily just be known for the work and my love for the game. And I think that really scared me for a while, because I wanted to just be known for my abilities as a player and my work ethic. And I wanted to get opportunities from that, and not because of this other thing, or lose opportunities because of my sexuality. So that was something that really kept me quiet for all those years. So I realized when I made this handle that was sort of my way of saying that I know that I'm not defined by that. Other people who I've been trying to do all these things for, try to accomplish all these things to make myself worthy in this space to kind of speak up, that's all kind of outside noise that I've been giving way too much attention to. So I just decided, if I can kind of take that name for myself and just own it and say, yeah, okay, I'm that gay rugger, if that's the way that people want to perceive me, I just kind of hope that maybe if somebody else was in my similar situation where they're worried about being labeled in that way, that they don't have to worry about that anymore, because somebody's already got the trademark to it.
Well, you're exactly right. And that brings me to the final point, So, if an athlete or non-athlete or somebody is going through a similar, struggle, if you will, what words could you impart now that you've gone through all this?
Yeah, this is a question that I get quite a bit. And I think it can be really difficult because everyone's situations are extremely different, right? Like I was in a situation where I could come out. I'm in an accepting place where I have a family around me. I know that I wasn't going to be, a victim of violence or a lot of other things that queer people around the world have to deal with. So I think that giving blanket advice can be really tricky, but the best advice I can give really is taking your time, right? Really taking that time to build incredible support systems around you and find those people who are going to be there with you no matter what, so that when you do come forward, you don't have to worry about that. You'll know that those people are always going to be there for you. But then the last thing that I've kind of been thinking about more recently is I think I spent a lot of time when I was in the closet thinking about the negative reactions, right? And all the negative backlash that I might receive, like I said, the opportunities that I might lose. But I really never actually took the time to think about all the positive things that might come out of it and all the people who might reach out to you and tell you how much what you did meant to them or ways that it's impacted them. And I really wish that I'd given more thought to that, because I think that giving yourself a chance to kind of picture the fantasy of a positive outcome and not just always being caught in the negative is actually really therapeutic, and I think helpful when you're in that kind of space where you feel like you don't have a path forward and you kind of feel trapped. I think it's nice to kind of, for a second, realize that there is this also other unexpected outcome where things work out better than you possibly imagined.
Inspiring and powerful words, my friend. Really appreciate you coming onto the show, sharing your story. And you've made it big time, my friend. Just because we went to trials once and you were 19, you went on to win a gold medal, my friend. So, players like myself look up to you and that team. And of course, your work off the field, I think, is in many ways more important than your work on the field. And so, again, from the Free Jacks and the family this side, we want to thank you, pal. And you've got a strong hair game growing there too.
Always. And thank you so much for having me. I think, something I've always respected so much about you is I met you in 2013 and you told me this is what you wanted to do, right? You wanted to be a broadcaster. You wanted to be out there. You wanted to be a voice of rugby, and you did it. So all the respect to you, and always nothing but respect.
Thank you, Devin. As we finish off here, we both will say, let's ride.
Are we doing it in sync or?
No.
Let's ride.